Call the regular city council meeting of Monday, March 8th, 2021 to order. Looks like from the participant window, we have pretty much everybody here that's expected to be here on the council side. Ms. Jones, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Okay, why don't we start off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Julie, if you could lead us off, please, I'd appreciate it. And then we'll go from there. So please rise if you will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
and one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, Michelle.
All right, Ms. Jones, if you would call the roll, please.
Yes, okay. And as a reminder, I'm remotely attending and the location, city and state. Councilmember Cousins.
Paul Cousins remotely attending from the University of Michigan Hospital.
And that would be Ann Arbor.
Excuse me.
Councilmember Fisher, which I assume she is absent.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Griffin.
Present remotely, City of Dexter, Washtenaw County, State of Michigan.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Present remotely from the City of Dexter, Michigan.
Councilmember Knight.
Here from the city of Dexter.
Councilmember Michelle.
I am 2 doors down from Ms. Hubbard in Dexter City, USA.
Mayor Keough.
Present from my home in the city of Dexter, Michigan.
Student Rep Gilbert.
Present remotely from Webster Township.
And Student Rep Malik.
I am being driven home from soccer, but I will be in Dexter, Michigan soon. So
Okay, on our way to Dexter. Okay.
sorry.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here. Item C on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from our regular city council meeting from February 22nd, 2021.
I'll move those.
Moved by Ms. Knight, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll second.
Support.
Okay, I think I heard second by Griffin, thank you. Ms. Knight, any comments on the minutes?
No comments here.
Ms. Griffin?
Yeah, thanks. I had 2 grammatical things and then 1 substantive thing.
Okay,
On page 4, under J, consent agenda, just where it says absent Michelle's and Fisher, I think there should be a semicolon there after absent. This is on page 4.
yep, okay,
The substantive thing on page 5, under 3, discussion of the Second Street design, in the 3rd line, or that second sentence, Patrick Droz and Marcus McNamara from OHM reviewed the option to consider on Second Street to consider future uses of the street, where to place the water main. I think where it says review the option to consider on Second Street, I don't know if something is missing, like to consider something on Second Street.
sidewalk.
I was wondering if it was that. I mean, they mentioned sidewalks later. So anyways, something seemed like it was missing there.
Or might have been, or the option to consider parking on Second Street maybe, but I don't, we talked about a couple of things.
Yeah. And then page 5. Oh no, that was 5. Was there something else? 3, 4, or 4, 5, 6. What's on 6? Oh, just the very top, it says nays, Michelle's, Griffin, and Cousins. That period after Michelle should be a comma.
Gotcha. Okay, good catches.
Thanks.
Thank you for those. Other council member comments? Wah?
Yeah, back on page 4,
Okay.
under J, if I was offline and Donna wasn't there, I don't think we could have been making the motion and supporting. I'm not really sure what happened, but it wasn't us.
What page, please?
4 under J.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, let me see what I had down.
I probably have it correct in my notes. I just didn't
Yeah, I figured it was just a.
correct this part, in the
Copy-paste.
consent agenda.
For some reason, I think it was Julie made the motion.
Sure.
Why don't you check your notes on that, Carol?
I will check. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a look back at that at the meeting, the recording.
Okay.
I mean, I would have, but apparently it wasn't there at that time.
Yep. Zach?
Yep, not really important in this context, but if my relative notices this on page 6, it was worse than Grozny, not Bosnia. Although I cannot comment about the condition of the roads in Bosnia, so that might be the same, but yeah.
Is it spelled similar with a GR instead of a B?
Grozny.
Okay. Because it came out sounding more like Bosnia, so.
I mumble a lot.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks for catching that. Anyone else on council? Any other comments? Okay, so we had several corrections. Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the meeting minutes with those corrections, please.
Yeah, I can find my minutes here. Just for my. Cousins,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes, thank you. So motion carries, the minutes are approved. Item D on our agenda this evening is a prearranged participation request from the Dexter Firefighters Association regarding the Dexter Days social tent and their park usage request or future request. I am guessing I saw Tim Andrews on the line here.
I am here.
Excellent. Tim, the floor is yours. Will you be speaking on behalf of the Firefighters Association?
I will, sir, if you please.
Carry forward. If you just state your name and record for the address, and you have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, all. My name is Tim Andrews. I'm the current president of the Dexter Firefighters Association. I have with me Jake Cassidy, our vice president, and Ben Boyce was going to be here, but he's running a little bit late. We asked to speak with you today and submitted some information, a plan for how to do the socially distant social tent as part of Dexter Days. Basically, we're here just to help Tracy out. I know she's going to be speaking with you also a little later on today, I believe. I thought we were kind of speak together, but essentially we're just asking that you work with us and continue to work with us. Mid-August is several lifetimes away, the way things are changing right now. In the last week or two since your last meeting, I have spoken to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, as well as the Washtenaw County Health Department, the director over there that supervises this type of food service arrangements. And he believes this is totally doable, that things will be changing in the weeks and months to come. And this can be done safely and appropriately. So we've submitted some tentative plans to you, and I believe Tracy has also submitted some additional stuff. We've been sharing and talking back and forth and coming up with some ideas. But again, what the standards and what the executive orders will be by August, we don't know. But we believe this can be done safely. So we just ask that you, not necessarily approve, but that you not cancel Dexter Days and work with us until then. That's about all I have at this point. Do you have any questions of us or of our plan?
Tim, thanks. Yeah, I just have one. And I guess since we're talking generally, because as you put it, August is 5 months away still. Whatever whatever what you've proposed in the social tent is, with the tables and the kind of outdoor seating, if you will, where you're sending people in, keeping track of how many people, that type of thing.
Mhm.
Whose role will it be to make sure that people stay in their seats, if you will, as opposed to, leaving their tables and making groups larger than whatever the number is at that time or what's intended in the plan? Who do you see as the person that's responsible for that? I think that's a key question in this. And if you don't have an answer yet, you can take it up and bring it up later, but I thought I'd throw it to you now.
Mhm. Just loosely talking, I mean, we're not sure exactly what that's going to mean. I mean, we're basically going to have to put out some rules and some postings that require that. But since everything within the tent is essentially our area once we start serving liquor at noon. So we are responsible for that area the way we see it. We talked with Tracy about, possibly coordinating that and not only making that a social tent area, but also possibly making that a food service area. We're just, loosely talking about that because another concern, I believe, I wasn't there, but I heard that you guys had is, food service around there and vendors around there selling food, and then people walking around taking their masks off and eating, essentially is not permitted. So we talked about, possibly having all food service going into the social area and sitting down there and eating, essentially a food court or something, if you will. So we would have to do something jointly with them and actually have to have essentially a monitor. Somebody will have to be at the door, making sure that people come in, that they sit down, that they're not wandering all around, and we're going to have to have a count of how many people we have in there and to make sure they are using the seats and the table as opposed to a normal social tent where people are up and milling around. Right now, that's not currently permitted. What it's going to be in August, we don't know, but.
Okay, I just want, that's a key part of this for me. If I don't know that I particularly have a preference on who should be the one that enforces it, but as long as someone is being responsible for that, I think that's an important part of showing that the plan has that in place. So thank you for answering the question.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have any questions for Firefighters Association prior to getting on the agenda? I know this is going to come up a little later in new business as well.
This is Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes, Paul, go ahead.
So mine's similar to Sean. The word social tent describes an activity that we all kind of know what it is in that tent from the past.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're trying to restrict that, my question is when we're thinking about food or in an area, like in a restaurant or out in front of the pub or something like that, generally the 4 people, the 6 people, whatever they restricted to there, were sitting at that table. And they didn't mill around or walk over to talk to somebody else on a general basis. They sat there, they ate their food, and then they left. I guess my concern is that with the idea of the word just social and what I've been in there for years, knowing what it's like, how do you control somebody that decides they're just going to walk over and they've seen somebody that they hadn't seen in 10 years? And that happens all the time. Somebody that's there and been in California and all of a sudden they want to go over and talk to them. So 3 or 4 people will walk over there to talk to them. And now there's 6 at the table and 3 at the other table.
That is going to be tough. I mean, it's I agree. It's going to look a little different, but that's something we're going to kind of have to do. I mean, we can't dictate who sits with who. You're supposed to stay within your own household, sitting down there. But we are going to have to, as Sean said, have to have some monitors that you're not going to be able to just walk around and stand over in the corner and stand at tables. If you want to, you want to say hi, fine. But if you're not going to be able to stand there and and create the distance. If you choose to sit down, with them, there's nothing we can do about that, but essentially you'll have to come in, you'll have to sit down, you'll have to get your beverages and then go sit down.
And I understand that, Tim. But what I was thinking about though is if they do sit down, then somebody comes to them, sees somebody, and they walk over there, and pretty soon you have 9 at the table, or 10, or even 8 at a table, and then how do you control that when there's a group of people there and they'd have to be standing around because they're not going to have seats for them there? Should be pretty obvious if they're standing there and the other table is filled, that they can't stand there. So it's a question of monitoring. I agree with that. And I guess I'm concerned about that a little bit. I'll stop for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Just one last comment. I guess we'll have to see what it is then. But the current executive order, I believe, only permits you to have 6 people at a table, if I'm correct.
Correct.
But we won't know when it's going to be later on, but that would be my answer to that. I mean, we'd only be able to have 6 people at a picnic table, and then the next picnic table is going to be 6 feet away from that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Zach, you have your hand up, sir?
Yep, my digital hand at least. So acknowledging that this is a long, long way away and would be difficult to predict. Have you guys given any consideration to how the chairs or how the tables will be sanitized, and if you're going to do any sort of contact tracing?
Okay.
Okay. No, actually, that's one that had, as far as the wooden tables had not come up yet. That's not one I had not thought about. I suppose we could, we usually put, some type of a simple plastic cover, over the top of them, but so we could do something like that and then be able to, wipe down and sanitize, tabletops like that.
Yeah, if Candy or something.
Yep, don't necessarily need an answer today, but just be ready for it, I guess.
Yep.
Hey, Tim, one last question.
Yes, sir.
You've got the brown area and the green area on your 2 little drawings. Can you just visually describe what you're talking about there, what those? I mean, it's the same size space, right? Is that your normal size space in green?
Yeah. Hey, you guys, this is Ben Boyce. I put together kind of that diagram, and basically what we're just trying to depict is, the green area is essentially the fenced area that we have today. It's about 11,000 square feet. The brown, it may look brown or orange depending on, the shading of the computer screen you're looking at. That is basically the tented area. So that's currently what we have tented. It's a 60 by 100 or a 6,000 square foot tent. In our proposal B, where we cut things down, obviously the green area stays the same in terms of square footages. But what we were talking about is, reducing the size of the tent to get more like true open air. Obviously, we don't use sides on our tents, so it's technically all open air. But, to try to, again, just facilitate the airflow and minimize gathering under one thing, one tent. We were thinking a smaller tent, a smaller serving area might suffice.
Okay, all right, I'm following it. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for coming this evening and answering and being a part of this.
Okay. We could just add one more thing. I forgot to mention it in kind of my opening. We've talked to the Washington Public Health Department and talked to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, and there are similar events to this, ice festivals and winter festivals going on right now. Last weekend and 2 weekends ago, full events like they're up in the St. Clair in Macomb area like this that are being permitted and going on right now. So by August, I think we'll have a better handle on it and should be able to do it a lot safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda, item E is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move
Motion.
the agenda.
Why did you say you move it? Julie has her hand up.
Sure. I'll either move or second, whatever Wa's doing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
All right, moved by Wah, second by Knight.
Sure.
Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the agenda.
Yes. Hubbard,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We have no public hearings this evening, so we're on to item G, which is non-arranged participation. This is an opportunity for anyone who is participating in the meeting to speak on any topic. If you should want to speak, we ask you to use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen on the Zoom window, or if you're calling in from a cell phone, you can dial *9 and that will alert us as well. Is there anyone that would like to speak this evening? Justin, I'm not seeing any hands. Do you see any hands?
I'm not seeing any hands as of yet.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to item H. Communications. Our upcoming meeting list or the calendar there is in the packet. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the meetings forthcoming here in March? Okay.
Wait,
Seeing none,
sorry.
we'll keep going.
Sorry, hold on. Sorry, Sean. I was trying to find my raised hand.
Oh, go ahead, Wah.
Oh,
No problem. Take your time.
Never mind. I saw it. I just didn't see the art selection committee for a second, but I saw it.
Okay, great. Yep, it's on there for the 11th, I believe. Okay. Our first report tonight is from our Public Services Superintendent, Dan Schlaff. Dan, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I hope
Dan.
everybody got a chance to go outside today. It's absolutely beautiful. I'd like to start with a couple things that we did today, actually. One of the things, the DPW went out today and was cutting back the alleys, and they had a bunch of brush to chip. And Kurt called me about 3 o'clock, our foreman, street foreman, and said, we don't have anywhere to dump the chips. We usually dump all them chips out at the city garden with the Avalon project going on. I don't know if Kurt talked to Justin or not. I have a couple ideas, maybe down at the wastewater treatment plant where we put the millings in when we did the Headworks project, or maybe down at the park off of 2nd Street. So Justin, I'll be talking to you tomorrow. They still got a full load, but we like to let the city residents, then we're pretty good wood chips, be able to utilize them. So we're going to have to do something a little different this year till we can get our normal spot back. One of the other things we're working on right now is DPW, water, and wastewater budgets. I think I'm going to meet with Justin this week, Wednesday or Thursday, to go over some of the things that we're looking forward to doing in the next budget year. Today, we went out and we televised some sewer main around town. And what we found is we have 2 problem areas, one on Hudson between 3rd and 4th, and another on Dover Street between 2nd and 3rd. Both of them are crock tile. One of them, the top at Hudson, has smashed down. There's about, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches of room in that 10-inch pipe. And then the one that's on Dover, one of the walls has busted out of it. It's not an emergency because obviously we'd be fixing it right now, but it's something that we're going to have to go in and make some repairs on. So over the next week or 2, I'm going to try to get some bids, get that to Justin, and we'll go over on how we're going to proceed on getting them 2 mains fixed. Next, do I have any questions on my report?
Michelle has her hand up.
So Michelle messaged me to say that she's been meaning to talk to Kurt about putting wood chips in Peace Park. There may be
a
issues
brand
with,
new load.
yeah, with grass growing there.
Okay.
There, we got it. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Justin, for relaying that. Julie, you have your hand up.
I just had a quick question, Dan. I see in your DPW report, right toward the end, you say you removed and cleaned up dead deer. How many deer are we talking?
I think we get between 1 and 2 a year that we have to pick up. Usually they're located for whatever reason on Dexter and Arbor Road by bushes. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but they get struck by vehicles actually.
Wow.
I know it's red raw down there, isn't it?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Jamie, you're next.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Dan. One thing that occurred to me for these water readings, like underwater misdig, MXU installs, backwash, things like that. One thing, because these numbers don't mean anything to me.
Yep.
I need like a context for them. One thing I was wondering, I don't know how easy it would be to insert like a past 12 month, like what you've had in the reports for the past 12 months, some sort of chart, like a bar graph or something like that. And it's something I could even like mock up. I mean, I don't want to add to your work. I'm, something I could help with, maybe Steph could help with. Just because I know a couple weeks ago when you were talking about the misdigs and you were saying, oh, this has to be a record because I think it was 33. Right. So you maybe have that context. I don't, maybe others have that context too, but it could be a nice way just to track.
Okay.
Like our utility bills. I don't know how much work that would take. And again, I'd be happy to help in any way. So just let me know.
Okay. If you got just a quick minute, the backwashing is what we do to our filters to remove the iron from them.
There's a cream on a deer that should.
That'd be something that might be a little bit easier to explain, bring it down to the filter plant. Well 5, we're tracking the aquifer depth.
Okay.
We track the aquifer depth in our Ryan Drive, the 5th well the most, just to make sure we know how much water we have available in that. We had problems with it many years ago. That's why we put the water restrictions on for the water only meters. So what I'm hoping is, I know that you've asked for a tour and Zach has asked, hopefully soon we would be able to do that. We could go over a few things that we do down here that would make it a little bit clearer. And thank you very much for the question. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, thanks.
All set, Jamie?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know when I look at, we've been looking at the water usage for a long time, and if they're in the 300,000 gallons like that, or the 0.3 MGD range, that's typical for winter. Those are typical winter numbers, winter weeks. You'll see it go up to 600 and 700 and more in the summer months when it's really dry and people are watering, and that's when Dan starts to get concerned. But so 300 is a pretty average number, I think, for winter time.
There's some history about why these numbers are on here.
Yeah, and the Jamie, the well 5 depth, that's our well that's out at near the school. And when we got that one permitted, we were actually hoping to be able to drill 2 wells there within the circular area that we had kind of sent to the DEQ and tested in. But the recharge of that well, Dan, I don't know what the word is slower than we expected it to be. Right. So we've been keeping track of essentially the depth from the surface down to the water level. And so if you see a bigger number, that means the water is lower in the aquifer because it's further down to the top of water surface. A smaller number means that it's recharged a little bit. So anyway, that's a little bit of background. I'm not perfect on that, but that's a little bit.
And like Sean indicated, as we go through the summer, we're going to watch these water only meters. I mean, they go up to 800,000 gallons, right. And then you'll notice that you know, the aquifer numbers in the fifth well will start getting
Come
deep
for me, sweetie.
first, but
That's helpful. Thanks.
Okay, Dan, thanks. Hopefully you guys can put away the snow plows.
so,
Get out the street sweepers.
can you knock on some wood because we're still in snow season here a little bit.
Okay, next up is our community development manager report. And I don't know if Mike's given this report today.
I will be, yes. Michelle's voice is still out, so I'll be presenting her packet items and she'll be able to respond to questions in the chat.
Great, thanks, Mike. Take it away.
Sure, thanks. So as Michelle mentions in the report, a couple of the items that happened since the last meeting is the Planning Commission had a discussion about accessory dwelling units. Michelle drafted a regulatory framework for permitting accessory dwelling units based on a number of different model codes and provisions that have been adopted by neighboring communities. So there was extensive discussion at the meeting, and commission members gave staff recommendations to revise the framework and for some specific updates they felt would be appropriate. So staff could go on and then draft code for them to review. Some of those changes included reducing the gross floor area permitted on lots with 7,800 square feet, allowing for closer proximity of ADUs to principal dwelling, by requiring firewalls, similar suggestions. The zoning ordinance update subcommittee met as well and reviewed a draft environmental provisions article. That article would include enhanced performance standards, additional requirements to look at natural features for larger sites and have those scalable requirements based on the size of the development. There's also discussion about tree preservation standards and ensuring that they would preserve healthy trees, but not require anyone to preserve anything that may be in declining health. At their upcoming meeting, the subcommittee will begin reviewing the city's use-based districts and also begin a discussion about form-based code and where it may be appropriate to consider form-based standards in the city. Lastly, some other updates. There's a pre-application meeting scheduled for tomorrow for 7390 Dexter and Arbor Road. The applicants AR Brower, and that's the site next to Morningstar where the dwelling was recently demolished. In addition, Michelle's had an item in the report since October that there had been some correspondence with Phantom Fireworks about temporary fireworks sales. They've since submitted an application to set up a tent for fireworks sales at the cider mill from the, I believe it's the 24th of June through July 4th, whatever the maximum allowable 10 days would be. So that application is under review. That concludes the updates. Does anyone have any questions about the report?
Not seeing any hands go up. Oh, Jamie?
Yep, thanks. Yeah, I'll just say real quick, I had a number of questions that I had Michelle and Mike, and Michelle got back to me, so I just wanted to say thanks. And I don't know, when there's a time that we would discuss this that related to ADUs, excuse me. And so my guess is when we would come back and talk about that again, I could share some of those questions or that feedback then. But I just wanted to say thanks for the responses.
Okay, great. Julie?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Mike or Michelle, can you give us any kind of an update on this issue on the stairs behind the pub?
Michelle's not shaking her head no. I don't have any updates on that myself.
I believe the last contact we had was that we let the pub know that if they wanted assistance, then they would need to send a letter or some form of written communication to the DDA requesting help. And I don't believe that there has been any further communication from the pub.
Okay, thank you on that one. And then also I want to ask about the 150 Jeffords, where that's is with the changing from commercial to residential and the lower units. It's in the planning commission, you know.
I don't have a, Michelle has her hand up, Justin. Michelle, where she may reply in the chat.
Didn't hear the question.
Well, the question is, I know Gunther Building has approached the planning commission requesting that the 2 commercial units at 150 Jeffords they're asking that it could possibly be rezoned to residential so that they could move those. Any updates on that? No. Okay. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Thanks for asking them. Other council member comments on things? Okay, we'll keep going. I think our next report is our city manager report. Justin?
Sure, thank you. So I do have a couple of updates for you. The first is we do have an art selection committee meeting coming up on Thursday. So you'll see a recommendation from them at your meeting on the 22nd for the temporary sculptures that we do annually. We did get a little bit of bad news. Our farmers market manager is going to be resigning, leaving us for Celine, for the Celine Farmers Market. So we're going to be posting that notice here shortly, looking to fill that spot. We did receive notice from the court that there was an opinion provided by the judges in the Chelsea Wellness case. Scott Munzel, our city attorney, is providing a memo for you, and we'll be looking to have a closed session to discuss that at the next meeting. Excuse me. I also was contacted by Jim Carson with regard to the senior center. He is going to be providing some information for city council's consideration, potentially asking for additional support for the senior center. I haven't seen that information yet, but as soon as I get that, I'll include it in your next packet. We are scheduled to have another work session this coming Wednesday regarding the conflict of interest. That'll be at 6 p.m. Via Zoom. I will also have some more items for you at the next meeting for 3515 Broad Street, including bond information. We're also going to be advertising here pretty soon positions for DPW summer help and advertising for the next round of student representatives for the upcoming year. So if anybody knows anyone over the age of 18 who might be interested in the DPW position, please let them know. And if anybody knows any students who might be interested in serving on any of our boards and committees, please let them know. And that's all I got for you.
Jamie?
Yep. Hi. Thanks for the update. I just wanted to share, I clicked over to Sun Times News earlier today, and it looks like possibly via 5 Healthy Towns Foundation, there is a brief update regarding those cases on the Sun Times News website. So we might be waiting for an update from our attorney, but there is an update on the Sun Times website from the other side.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to cover this a little bit further under my report after Justin introduced it, but we, the 2 decisions were issued on Thursday, March 4th. And I'm not sure what the Sun Times said. I haven't read that yet, but if you recall, we were asking the Court of Appeals to essentially overturn the tax tribunal's ruling that Power Wellness Management isn't responsible for the user tax. And the Court of Appeals essentially confirmed what the tax tribunal found and said that they said it a different way though. They agreed with the tax tribunal that they didn't qualify under the user tax, But what's interesting is the reason they gave for not qualifying is that they didn't consider the management fee that Power Wellness is paid by the Chelsea Health and Wellness Foundation to be considered profit. And we know that the contract they have is that the Chelsea Wellness Foundation reimburses Power Wellness for all of its costs, indirect and direct, essentially, and then it pays a management fee on top of that. But for whatever reason, the courts didn't find that management fee to count as profit, and the technical language of the user statute that we were trying to qualify them under uses the word profit. So Scott can explain that more in the memo that Justin will pass out. We'll explain that more. And then we had asked the State Tax Commission to go back and essentially look at whether or not some of the previous years should be counted. And they again used a different word. They used the word omitted. We suggested that if somebody wasn't on the tax rolls as paying taxes, that they were omitted from paying taxes because it's a taxation section. And they actually said, even though they're on the rolls paying zero, they're not omitted from the rolls. So there's no responsibility of the State Tax Commission. It's sort of a different spin on the word omitted. Anyway, we'll share that information more. Scott prepared a memo and we'll send that around, and the two decisions are also available. Those are public information, so we can share that too with both council and DDA. So essentially that was going to be my main topic to discuss under my report. So I'm covering that now if anybody has any questions. It's a public issue, so there's no real hidden thing. You know, the question would be, the future question for a potential closed session would be, you know, do we want to push it further on in any, way, shape or form? So we'll try to get all the information to you and then, schedule the closed session for next meeting. Justin, I didn't mean to take over your report.
No, yeah, I was done.
Excuse me. Does anybody have questions, other questions for Justin? Okay, keep up the good work. Does anybody have any questions for me on my report? I had a pretty short report. Pretty busy at work the last couple of weeks. Haven't done too much. I did have one meeting with the person representing St. James Church. They had a backup on one of their sewer leads, and they were asking the city to consider paying for it. But as far as I can tell, it's all speculation related to the cause of it. So, but I did have an on-site meeting with Jerry Brand at his request. On the 5th of March, we toured 3515 Broad again. The purpose of the tour was to take Partners in Architecture through that facility based upon council's last action at the last meeting. David Gassan is the lead architect, and he had his another member of his firm. Her first name was Lauren. I don't know that I caught her last name. Come through with him. They took a whole bunch of pictures. They asked about, the function and the use. They looked at, the ideas on where, potentially the lobby could be. They looked at the meeting room. They talked about the orientation of the meeting room. They talked about the possibility of elevators. Anyway, I think they did a pretty thorough look at that. Basically an hour and a half they were there or so. And anyway, that step is off and running. I know that Justin has already planned to do some other things in terms of scheduling things like appraisals and, full building inspection. I think he's getting proposals for some of those other tasks that, we would normally do as part of our evaluation. So I don't have too much more detail on that other than I wanted to let everybody know that did occur last week, which is a good thing. So Justin, do you know how long David might and his team might take to get back to us based upon that meeting? I didn't catch that at the.
I know that he's going to be out of the office for a week and a half.
Okay.
So I would imagine probably closer to a month to follow up with potential proposals. I know that he's working to turn around the building inspection proposal for later this week, though.
Okay. All right, so we probably won't have an update at our next meeting on that then, unless it's just a proposal to authorize a full building inspection.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'll just say Donna says hi. She's doing well, doing the rehab, but obviously not with us today. So keep her in your thoughts as she progresses. Okay, we'll keep moving. Next up is item J, which is the consent agenda, and it has 4 items on it. Is there a council member that's willing to make a motion to move the consent agenda, please? Jamie, thank you. Motion by Griffin.
Yeah, sure. I'll motion to approve the consent agenda, 4 items. Bills and payroll in the amount of $370,292.91. The second item, setting a public hearing to consider text amendments to the General Code of Ordinances for the merging of Parks and Recreation Commission and Tree Board. Third item, appointments to Art Selection Committee. Fourth item, setting a public hearing to consider an IFT for utilities instrumentation service at 2290 Bishop Circle East.
Cousins
Thanks, Jamie.
second,
Is
can
there
you
a
hear me?
second? I see.
Cousins second, can you hear me?
Okay, that works. Perfect. Thank you. And thanks, Paul. Ms. Jones, if you would please call the vote on the consent agenda, please.
Yes. Griffin,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Michelle,
Abstain.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. We've approved the consent agenda 5-0 with 1 abstention. So now we're down to the bottom of page 3 for old business or unfinished business, as I think we're going to change it to. New business item K1 is consideration of the Dexter Days Park Use Road Closure Permit Request. So let me just say this. So I don't know what everybody's thinking quite yet tonight, but if there's a motion that could be made one way or the other, then a second, then we can get into discussion. I'd like to allow 1 representative of the Dexter Days, whether that's Julie or Tracy, to speak to us, with the updated information, and then council can have our discussion from there, if that sounds like an okay protocol for this.
Well, I will move approval of the permit.
Okay, Zach, motion to approve. Is there anything you moving reference to a certain plan or?
The more restrictive one, I'm trying to find the page number here.
Yeah,
with the
thanks.
understanding that if conditions improve, that could go to the other plan. I think it's page 83.
Yeah, let me get there with you just so I'm on the same page. Okay, so the minimal plan. Right?
Yep.
Okay, and okay, so all right, and is there I guess I'll just ask you to clarify what would be the trigger of them being able to go from the minimal plan to the moderate plan?
Well, there are a lot of people who are far smarter than me who haven't been able to do good metrics. I would say if the vaccinations are going well and the rates are coming down, that they ought to come back to us and have the discussion about expanding it.
Oh, okay, so that was the part I was hoping you'd add is that, okay, so motion to approve the minimal plan with the idea, with the ability for them to come back to us for approval to jump up a plan.
Yep.
Okay, is there support for that?
I'll second. Knight.
Okay, second by Knight. Thank you, Julie.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Zach. Okay. Okay, we're into discussion. Does it make sense if we hear from Tracy at this point? Or does that sound okay, Council?
Sean, this is Paul. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Can you describe the actual page number and what that second plan is so that we can all be looking at that?
So the referenced page is 83 in the packet.
Okay. Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very
And it's the minimal plan is what it's called at the top of page 83,
Yep.
which carries. Okay.
All right. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Justin, can you help me find, you got Tracy unmuted. Tracy, are you there?
I am here.
Thank you for waiting patiently.
Not a problem.
Okay, I'll let you talk to us a little bit about, thought process since last meeting to now.
Well, so I hope you all had a chance to look over all the questions and kind of the COVID response plan we put together. We also thought about, different ways we could make this happen. And, we told you there would be the minimum thing we could do, or that it would be beneficial for everyone who, attended. So we came up with these 3 ideas or these 3 plans. I'm actually not on the same plan with you guys. I think a minimal plan is an increased risk for bringing people together, whereas that maximum plan will allow us to use multiple parks and spread out. So I'm not sure if there's any further discussion you had on that, having everything in Monument Park on that minimal plan, because we'd have to pare down all of our entertainment, versus looking back at that normal plan that would allow us to use both parks. Clearly, we'd have to supplement, we'd have to have enough money to fund each park on a sponsorship level for the entertainment side of things. But being able to use both parks would allow us to spread out more and ensure that kids and parents are, feeling comfortable if they come. So was there any talk about, the different plans, or is it just minimal because, what did you like about the minimal plan?
Well, Tracy, as you know, we only meet every 2 weeks, so this is our first chance to talk about it as a group. Okay, so you put 3 plans in front of us, and that's why I asked Zach what he was, specifically motioning to approve. So.
Yep. I'm just curious, if there's, aside from, the numbers of rate, what Zach spoke about, the rates of COVID, numbers going down. Aside from that, do you think that it's safe to have everything in one park, Zach? I mean, would that be the best route to go for it if we were to put on a festival? Or would it be more safe to allow it to be spread out so that we can make sure that people do have ample room?
I'll let Wah go first and then Jamie second.
Well, Tracy just asked Zach a question, so I don't know if Zach wants to respond to that first.
Oh, okay. I thought that was generally being asked. Okay, fair enough. Zach, go ahead.
Well, the more spread out, the better, but also there are more vendors, which causes more points of contact. And it requires more investment in stuff like sanitation and folks policing if necessary. So that was kind of my concern. I kind of put it on there because it is a bit more compact, again, with the understanding though that if things look well, that I'm very happy to reconsider it.
Okay, wow.
I guess I'll second some of that, which is, I mean, I do acknowledge that having things more spread out has potential to be safer, but it's tough when we're looking at minimal, moderate, and regular. And to just be communicated to that you guys feel that the minimal plan is the least safe. So I guess I'm just, that's hard for me to wrap my head around a little, because I would have hoped for a different sort of perspective on it, I guess. But also for me, it comes back to who's going to
What can I
enforce
do for you? Anything?
any of
You okay there?
the regulations in the first place. Acknowledging that we will be in a much different place, hopefully in August. And, you know, I hope any discussion we have tonight is something that we can revisit as things change, because really, I'm not an expert in these regulations, you know, and as they change, I would just hope that whatever events that we're talking about, whether it's this or some other event, we can continue to work with the organizers for anything we might approve and sort of adapt as things go. I mean, this is a very unusual time and we all have to be flexible. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Jamie?
Yep, thanks. I want to start by acknowledging the amount of time I think this group put into putting this plan together. So I want to thank them for that. One way I thought about this, and I don't know that it's reflected necessarily this way in these plans, is if I were thinking about reimagining this event, I might think about all the different components, like the booths, the car show, you know, there's a social tent, which is kind of a separate thing, food vendors, the kids area. And to me, I guess an easy way, I mean, I guess I'll just start by saying is I am very interested in finding some way to make some version of, you know, to approve some version of this going forward. And I'm just trying to figure out, you know, how to best, you know, think about this or have a conversation about it. And, you know, I agree, kind of, you know, keeping all the components and cramming them in one location maybe is not what I would have selected. I like the appeal of things being spread out. I can also see something where we reduce some of the components. You say like, you know, no kids area, you know, not at Mill Creek and not at Monument. That's a different way to think about it. I don't know if our goal here is to be confined to the 3 plans and only choose among them. I don't know if our goal here is to have some sort of collaborative effort amongst council and potentially Dexter Days to come up with some, you know, conglomeration of the 3 plans and what we talk about. I mean, I think they're in a tough spot of there's so many different components to this. I feel like it's a tough ask to say, you know, put together 3 plans and there's going to be one that meets all of our all the things that we're thinking about. And I went back and I was looking through packets randomly trying to find something else, and I came across the Ice Fest permit. And to me, I think it was, you know, 1 page front and back, and there's just, you know, brief paragraph about, you know, there's going to be no crowds or not, you know, there will be a live demo, but it's not going to be advertised, but it actually was advertised. And so I think, you know, I guess one question I have is, are people, so there were, Ice Fest was approved and it happened the way it happened. Was that like a learning experience and we're now trying to improve upon that and we're asking more of Dexter Days because we wished we would have asked more of Ice Fest? I think is one question I have. And then another thought I've had about, you know, this enforcement thing, because, you know, that wasn't part of, as far as I can tell, any part of the Ice Fest permit. You know, how are they going to be enforcing masking and social distancing? And I get how this, you know, this event maybe is perceived slightly differently if they're, you know, you're thinking a large amount of people are coming to one area at a time. I'm thinking, okay, what else might be analogous? You have a really nice day, like today, not out of the middle of nowhere, but you have this really nice day. Everybody comes out to the city parks, right? I go to Hudson Mills on a beautiful Saturday morning and there are people everywhere. Are Hudson Mills staff out there making sure people are maintaining social distancing or wearing their masks? no. And so I think I'm just trying to understand what the guiding philosophy is behind this, who's enforcing X. And, in some sense I can see, well, it's an event that we're permitting, but we're also, we also have our parks open, and you have a really nice day, and the city isn't telling everybody come play at the parks, but the parks are there and everybody's there and they're crowding there too. So I think I'd like to have some conversation around that, just so I can better understand why different than Ice Fest, why different than parks on a nice day. And are we restricted to these 3 plans, or can we have a collaborative conversation to find something that works? Thanks.
Zach, I think you next, and then Julie.
Yeah, I had a question for the applicants, if they would be able to make the 2 parks work, Monument Park and Mill Creek North, if they kept it to 46 vendors.
Well, our entertainment is driven by sponsorship dollars solely. So if I get enough sponsor dollars to like put on entertainment down there, sure. But the booth revenue covers porta-john, sanitization, sound, light, tents, those sort of logistical things we need to put our entertainment on with. So yes and no. I mean, like, we're already looking at ways to cut our budget on a logistical side. Booths also cover marketing expenses and things like that. But at the end of the day, there are some things that are going to be needed down there. We always put a porta-john. We always put an extra hand sanitizing station down there. If we're doing that down there, we're going to have another one at the entry points. We usually put a tent down there. Well, that's a couple grand for the weekend, so when I have 100 booths and I can, I know I'm getting all this money coming in, yeah, not a problem. But when I don't, then I don't know. So I guess what I would say is, if I don't have a tent, but I can put, Puller's the Clown down there, if it rains or it's 100 degrees, it is what it is. Bring an umbrella. And I'm not opposed to the minimal plan and like re-looking at things as things, change. I'm not opposed to that. My question was like, why did you like that and versus the other ones? So that I could get a better understanding. Oh, okay, well, you only want 40 some booths. Okay, so now I'm only working with X amount of dollars for, putting logistics on and stuff. So.
Julie?
Julie Wilkinson?
Julie, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just saw Julie. I didn't. My bad. Julie Wilkinson, you want to say something?
No problem. I just wanted to point something out. Today is March 8th. We've got 5 months until Dexter Days. All we are asking for right now is for you to approve our permit request so that we can move forward, so that we can find sponsors, we can rent out the booths. And then as things get closer, as Jamie said, then yes, whoever said it, then we reevaluate based on what the guidelines are at that point. I think in our documentation, we said that we will make whatever adjustments are necessary based on whatever regulations are in place at that time. We're not asking for you guys to say, yes, we'll approve it under this one. We don't know what things are going to be like in 5 months. All we're asking you for is to approve our permit so that we can move forward. And then in 3 months, we'll come back and we'll meet with you and we'll say, okay, here's what it looks like things are gonna be. Here's what we want to do. You guys give our blessing. We make whatever adjustments we need to at that point. That's my understanding of what we're asking for. All we're asking for is for you to say, yep, we're gonna, Dexter Days can happen this year. We'll work out the final details, but we can't do anything until we know that we can have an event. We can't solicit for any kind of funds.
All right, so let me ask some questions if I can, please. So I think I share the sentiment that if there's something we can do this year, I'd like to be able to say we're helping you do that. But I think that there's some information here that I'm not quite clear on. So let me just run down a couple things. First of all, in all the information that's prepared here, there's no graphics at all, unless I'm missing something. So I'm a visual person, but without it, I'm left to read what I see here. So in the letter that you submitted to Courtney dated February 6th, you talk about posting no parking signs along Main Street and blocking off Central Street at Main and 5th so that the committee can start arranging. But when you get down into the plans that you submitted, minimal and then the other, the minimal plan says for the booth locations, it says Monument Park and the area in front of Three Bird, which I get, that's the grass area. And then it says, and in parking spaces in town on Main Street. Now, most of the years that I've been around Dexter Days, I don't believe that parking's been taken up. Is that a change? Is that a change?
Yes.
In what you're asking?
Yep. Yes, because if we're in Monument Park with 40 booths or whatever it is, I'm not looking at it right here. Figuring it gets crowded in front of Three Birds, it gets crowded in front of those stores. Those storefronts often set up stuff that we don't have control over. We can't plan for that. So we were thinking, all right, well, if they end up setting up the storefronts out there, we're going to have to move things around and we need to have proper spacing. So could we also use those parking spaces? Would that be something that would be helpful so that not everyone's in that grass area, not only in front of Three Birds, but also in Monument Park as a whole?
Well, Tracy, who's paying for the barricades?
Okay, so I don't know who's ever paid for the barricades. So the Washtenaw County Police always end up putting up the no parking signs on Central Street there, all those orange signs.
No, I mean your vision of blocking off the parking space. I mean, I'm envisioning the parking as the parking, like the angled parking area. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct, yes.
So who in you've got on Friday, you've got parking spaces in town on Main Street, not really defined with a limit. And then down below on Saturday, you say in town on Main from Central to Broad, both sides.
Right. So is there a fee to use like the barrels that you guys have with the with like Kurt? Like, I'm not sure how it is on the back end when we talk about blocking streets. The city's never told us this is how much we owe for using the barricade. So is that
Well,
something, are you saying
no,
you don't have those? Because I don't know if you don't.
Well, so let me just, when we block a street off, typically, and I'm going from memory here, but when we block a street off, they bring out, and Dan helped me, they bring out a few type 3, I think they're called barricades. They're, they've got metal rungs and wooden slats across, and they put a couple down. But when we have blocked off parking spaces for use in recent year, there have been much more significant plastic barrels filled with water to protect cars from going in those spaces, like, the outdoor eating areas that were near the pub or the grotto or whatever. And I'm just trying to ask what your vision is, because I don't think it's just cones and such that we would be putting there if there's going to be active cars going right by whatever it is your vision is for that.
So yeah, it would be those
The other part of that is there's an ADA compliant angle with because that parking space is not the same level as the sidewalk and the area around it. So it makes it difficult for all users to be able to get up and down and in and out of there. So I'm not in favor of that addition. And I would personally like to see a diagram that shows where the 46 booths are. Jamie asked a question, what did we learn from Ice Fest? I had a vision for what Ice Fest was in year one. In year two, we did not space the ice sculptures out nearly enough from my perspective. We had a whole park to space them out, and we stuffed them all at the small triangular part of the end and near the gazebo. I failed to ask for a plan of what that was going to look like the last time around, but I'm learning from that in this case here. So I would like to see an idea of what it would look like with 46 booths and how far apart they are, and get some idea of that, especially as it meshes with the the proposed social district or social tent area. I see you're still planning to do Jeffords Street.
as long as LaFontaine still wants to do their car show.
When does that become known?
I emailed Quayla last I knew over at LaFontaine. They were still going to push forward with the car show. They like it to be down in the city area. They can do it up at LaFontaine themselves, but it's been nice after the parade to kind of park them there and call it a day. So I haven't heard she's not going to.
Is there a parade that's part of this?
Yes.
Yes.
Where does it say that on my minimal plan?
So on the minimal plan, there is not a parade listed. On the other plans, I think there is, on the main plan, there is a parade. So usually the parade is Saturday at 10 o'clock. So we can say no parade. That's not going to keep people from going. And I can tell you that right now, because we never really, it wasn't up until the past 5 years that we were like, okay, well, we need to like handle this chaos. So I don't even know like how that all, I mean, I've been doing, this is my 10th year. So before like 5 years or so, this group at the church used to like manage the cars coming up there, and I had to not even worry about it. And then they were like, all of a sudden one day, like Dr. Kolb used to help. And all of a sudden one day they're like, well, we can't find enough volunteers to do this. And I was thinking like, oh, okay, like, great. So we kind of just like took it upon ourselves to do it. But like, if I'm not up there, I don't know what's going to happen. We can say no parade. Like, obviously people relate the two, but I mean, no one's going to start.
Tracy, you need permission to block off Main to have a parade. So
well, it's not on this, Sean. Did you read it? I'm sorry, it's not there. There's no parade.
Wait, Tracy, please. I'm not trying to give you any attitude, but I feel like you are
you
me.
just did. I'm not asking for permission to block off for the parade.
Okay.
We're simply thinking that in front of, from Central to Broad, we could bump the 10 by 10 tents in those parking spaces up along the sidewalk to allow more spacing in front of Three Birds, especially because it gets really busy in there. That was our thought. If you don't like it, then fine. We don't have to do it. If there's a rental for, no, stop. I would like to talk now. If there's a rental for things that we don't know about, then please put it on your permit. So in the future, when we're selecting boxes, we're happy to select those. I didn't know that you guys didn't have those. And if you needed to use them, that there would be a fee. So I'm asking, I'm saying, hey, listen, I want to make this right. Here's my idea.
Tracy, I'm just trying to understand the concept here, okay? That's all I'm asking questions on.
And when we
I'm
have
not saying-
literally 5 days to put together a plan, analyzing or analyzing everything and looking at risks and trying to determine the best route for you guys and answer all your questions the best we can, doesn't leave a lot of time to do a freaking site map for you, okay? It's a 10 by 10 tent, and I believe on the bottom, I did put a note that each booth is a 10 by 10 space or a 10 by 20 space. If we want to keep if we want to keep both parks open, and reduce traffic, it'd be nice to be able to sell 100% of our normal booths. If we're telling you we will space them out I think I wrote somewhere like 3 to 6 feet from each other. Like, okay, 10 by 10, 3 to 6 feet, 10 by 10, 3 to 6 feet, 10 by 20, 3 to 6 feet. Like, it's not rocket science. We can give you that, but right now we're asking for you to approve a plan. If there's one you want to approve, but you want to cross something out, let's do it. Nobody's got time for all of this. We want to make it work, and we can work with you, but we had 5 days to put this together. 5, Sean, 5.
Okay, Justin, please put her on mute. Thanks, Tracy.
Sean, this is Paul.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Sean?
Yep. Yes.
I move to postpone this item to the next council meeting.
Okay, is there a second to do that? I'd still like to get a little clarification on what they're asking though, but okay. Is there a second to postpone?
I mean, I would generally second that. If we can discuss it.
Yep, we can.
Okay.
Okay. Julie Knight, you have your hand up. Julie?
Yes, I'm not seconding. I just want to make a comment. I'm looking at the initial application that they submitted to the city. And it says right on the application, parade and road closures, and it says checks the box for parade. So that clarifies whether they want to have a parade or not. So they do. And I also want to follow up and say, I have sat with these girls on this, well, not just all girls, sat on the Dexter Days Committee with these people, and I know how hard they work and how much work they put into this and how dedicated they are to our city. And I think we need to work with them politely and see if we can get this going. We need to have this kind of activity in our town. We need to bring people in. And yes, we need to be cautious. We need to mask and distance and all that. But I think we can work it out. We just need to work together on it. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this.
Okay, thanks, Julie. I'm just trying to understand what's part of which plan, because there's 3 different plans here. And the application obviously only goes with one of them.
Application on page 74.
I know, but the application, there's 3 plans attached to it, and not all of them, as Julie, as Tracy explained, not all of them have the same
If they're
thing.
actually going to be a parade, they're actually applied for a parade. Yes, it's on the application.
All right, well, what Zach proposed
I know.
doesn't have that. Okay, so that's why I was trying to clarify what the intent was. And there's also an intent to have fireworks. And I guess I don't know what the plan is there to make sure that, you know, that's a big draw of a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
I think that should at worst case be tentative. I mean, so anyway, we've got a motion by Cousins, second by Watt to postpone. Is there discussion on that? Watt?
Yeah, actually, here's what I don't know what I do now that I've seconded that, but I want to go back to something that Julie Wilkinson said, which is that they just need some sort of assurance that we're going to allow some version of this. And as I said before, I mean, things keep changing, and I appreciate how much work was put into this. You guys who organized this, I don't know if you know this about me, I co-chaired the Paint Dexter Festival for 3 years, so I am aware of how much how much pre-planning there is and how much that's relying on sponsorships. And I'm very empathetic to all of that. And I hope that that's not lost. But I don't know if there's a way that we can sort of say, yeah, we want to see some version of this. None of these plans right now, there's nothing's set in stone with CDC regulations or anything like that. So it's just tough to sit here and put like the stamp of approval on anything like with detail like this. And so I don't really know if there's some sort of middle ground there or how others feel about that, but I just want to put that out there.
Well, Sean, this is Paul again. Unless you got somebody else in front of me, I didn't even get to speak to my motion, so I'd like to do that when you give me the floor.
Go ahead, Paul, since you made it. Go ahead.
Well, Walt kind of said it right at the end there, and there are so many questions. Are we having a parade? Well, we can't stop them if they do have a parade. Where we're going to have it here or we have it there, and the parking down on Main Street there. I'm involved. I've been involved with the Ann Arbor Summerfest for years, and we had to come up with spatial devices for people that were handicapped to put in ways that they could get up and down in the middle of blocks. Jerry Clappridge made them for us, okay, so that we could satisfy that law. It's a law you have to abide by. People getting up and down there, and so there are, as Wad just described, so many questions, both our side and then from their side about what they think or what they don't think. I don't think I've ever seen something this, and I'll use the word complex. I don't want to say controversial, but complex. And us giving an approval of it without knowing any of the details to some framework, whether it's a map, which thank the firefighters for putting something in their presentation, so that we could do that. And 2 weeks from now, they will have more time, not 5 days, they'll have more time to answer the questions and come up with a little more detailed plan, rather than us approving one that we don't even know what we're approving when we approve it. With all the questions we have, I've got the same questions. Fireworks, I've been there. I've seen how people crowd together. I've been in the, walking along the sidewalks there. The other thing at least it was published in the Sun-Times, I thought the last time that they were here, they said that Chelsea was going to go ahead with their event. And I understand that that's not true. Chelsea is not going to go along with their 2-day event at all. They're going to provide some kind of an activity with their sounds and sights. And I understand they're using that to try to keep people away from gathering there and spreading them out. I don't know how that's done yet, but the big event that they have in the tent and all the activities for the 2 days are not being done by Chelsea, as I understand it. And it's all because of the safety issues. And if we're serious about our oaths of being council people to try to do things for the public and yet keep it a safe event, we wouldn't think of having a race down Main Street with cars. It'd be ridiculous. I'm not saying they wouldn't even think about that either. It's just we wouldn't do it because we know it's not safe. And we have to have some degree of safety as we approve something like this. And to approve something like this is just a carte blanche, in my opinion, without further details. And there were lots of questions from Sean, from others. And then when a question came up, then it was, well, we can't deal with that because we only have 5 days. I understand it was a very short period of time. I questioned it then when that was there, how it's going to get done in my mind. How is it going to get in 5 days, as complex as this is? But if we are going to do it, I think 2 weeks will not put it up or down. I know they want an answer, but we can come back with the answer. And, the bands out there, bands are begging for work. every band that I'm familiar with, they're begging for any time to play, and they're doing it cheaper now than they've ever done it before, so they have some money coming in, being able to perform, because that's what they do. Now, the booths are going to be, and I don't know how you separate those that are good and bad there. They'll have to do that, but the point is, I think there's time even by delaying, and I'm asking that we delay it for 2 weeks so we can have time, and we don't have this follow discussion in a public meeting, and we come up with a better way of solving it. And I think there's time for them to do that.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, Jamie and then Zach.
Mhm. Thanks. I feel like there's no way for Dexter Days to succeed in this situation.
Excuse me, Jamie, will you say that again, please? So I didn't quite hear it.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to say, I feel like we're setting them up for failure, but again, with this number of components, to keep going back to them to say, come together, put together this plan. I feel like if I were, I understand we're in this public meeting and how all these things work. Like, if we were like, how would we actually problem solve this in a different setting? I think we would all sit around a table and we would try to work together, and instead of saying, well, there are 7 of us and we can't picture it, go put together something that we might be picturing. Like, I can picture something in my head, and maybe I can't figure out what number of booths it would be, but I can imagine approving something that has some number of vendors. And I understand that's where they generate the revenue, which then dictates how many entertainment type things they can have. So everything kind of hinges on what number of booths they can get, because that's their funding source. So I don't know, is it possible to start, and maybe we would have to see a visual to make that happen? I don't know how many would fit. But I feel like that's the foundational piece for me, is minimally what number of booths would we be okay with? Like, and I don't want to send it back to them and say, you come back and you tell us how many booths, and then add on all these other components. Like, I don't know if there's a way we can say, like, yes, as council members, we all want some number, like, we all want this to happen. Like, can we agree to that? We all want some version of this to happen. And if so, okay, I think the next piece is what number of booths, and maybe, I don't know how we come up with that in this meeting. Maybe that's not possible, but we know we want some number of booths so they have money to fund something else. Is everybody okay with a car show at all? Do you want it, are you okay with it there? Are you okay with any kids events, or is that where you draw the line because people are touching things? Are you okay with any amount of food, or the social tent? Like, again, to send this all back to them, as long as it might take the 7 of us to work through it in a conversation, to send them back and to spend all this time, I think, again, I feel like they would come back and we'd have, well, I mean, I could do the math in my head. I guess, it's, 7 components, and each might have 3 different implications, 7 to the 3rd. That's how many different combinations of ways they could put this together. And having them, throw darts at a wall and come up with 3 of whatever that number is. So I don't know. I don't want to postpone it. I want them to know that they can go out and start asking people to have booths. So they can start generating, know that they have some money, that they have permission to do this, and that they have some money. But I understand the hesitancy. Like, we don't want them to solicit 100 booths, maybe, because maybe that's not the number we're comfortable with. I want them to be able to move forward with something. I understand wanting to see a drawing. I would, that's fine with me too. And, with our, just the timing of when packets are due, I mean, yeah, that maybe gives them 7 days after tomorrow to, like, turn around, before packets are due on Monday. I mean, in terms of the street thing, I think maybe they were thinking about our, the outdoor service areas that, the parklets that we had done. Maybe they were thinking about that and they didn't understand the complexities that went into that. I don't know who paid for the parklets. Did the city pay for all that? Did they install all that? Is that something we'd be willing to do for Dexter Days? I have no idea what that cost. Anyways, I don't want to postpone it. I think that's going to take all the wind out of their sails, and they'll just say, forget it, we'll do something else. Maybe that's what people want. But I understand we don't want to give some carte blanche approval either. So I don't know where that leaves us, except to say, I really don't want to postpone it. And I want them to be able to move forward with something if there's a way to do that.
So Jamie, I think you asked a lot of questions in making your point there, and I understand what you're saying. All I'm trying to do is understand and define what it is, if we were to give approval, what is it that we're approving? And the number of tents is not actually important to me. I realize that for them, each booth represents $1 that they can then use to pay for the entertainment or the porta johns or whatever it is that they have to, to cover costs. I don't know what space relates to a certain number. So the graphic to me would help me. And if the number turns out to be 46 or it turns out to be 51, that isn't what justifies for me. I was hoping they would show us how they were going to use the space. And that would give us some confidence in either the spacing that they've described. It would sort of validate the number. When you put 3 plans in the packet, I just want to be clear on what it is they're asking to do. And I think a little bit more definition. I mean, for example, I didn't think they were coming to approve the regular plan when they put in minimal, moderate, and whatever it was. There's not anywhere on here that says that I've seen, unless I'm missing it.
They do have a regular, do you mean, do they have a regular plan in there?
Well, I mean, Jamie, everything's a version of what we knew from last year. Like, for example, the adding of parking space to take up the parking spaces on Main Street is a new request, or that would be a change from last year. I'm trying to visualize what I know, or not last year, 2 years ago. I'm trying to visualize what I know from 15 years of being at Dexter Days events or more. So I think it's incumbent upon them, to call out the changes. I personally don't have any problem with, Jeffords Street being closed down for a car show for a few hours. I don't have a problem there. Okay, I don't have a problem with, but I just think it needs to be defined. I think it needs to be defined how they're gonna, are they gonna let people enter that area where the cars are from one angle, or is it a free for all? I think that kind of information is important for us. And as they advertise the event, for us to, to advertise, for the protocols to be, presented is all. Zach, you've been waiting patiently.
Yep. I was going to say that I'm comfortable approving this now, knowing that there is some fuzziness. We could do something like the layout is to be reviewed and approved by city staff. They have language in there describing the spacing. With respect to the parking spaces, we don't have the barriers, so they could be approved for it, and they would have to sort out how to do the ADA and get the barriers on their own, or decide not to do it. So I'm comfortable going ahead now with the understanding that this may morph between now and August.
For the barriers on Main Street, it was my understanding that we were going to be looking at that coming up anyway for the use by the restaurants and businesses on Main Street, unless we're talking further down in front of like Three Bird.
Well, that's a good point, Justin, because, like if we head towards allowing additional outdoor seating like we had in 2020, a portion of the area that they're requesting would be taken up, was previously taken up in front of like the Grotto and Painted Trout. So that would have to be reconciled. Those are the kind of details that I think need to be figured out. Look, I don't know where everybody's standing here, but if we vote to postpone it, and let's say it fails on a 3-3 or something, and then we go to approve it and it fails on a 3-3, then where are we? Okay, I think that we're much better off giving them a couple of weeks to define which plan they're asking for and showing us how it fits in the spaces and clarifying all the different things, I don't think the answer, we can't stop a parade, is the answer we're looking to hear. Okay, the parades in the past have been organized. The city cooperates with the Dexter Days Committee. We block off, the sheriff come in, they stand at the different intersections, and the parade occurs in an orderly fashion. Okay, but I think we're all concerned about the fact that the parade's gonna draw a ton of people. And that's the difficulty in that. And if, you know, the plan that Zach's motioned does not have parade as a part of it, but it has fireworks. So I think that part of this forum is to give them feedback. You know, one other thing that we could do is have a couple of people, you know, I don't know, maybe work with them on defining the plan a little bit, if you wanted to go back to that idea. Michelle, you had your hand up? Or go ahead, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I thought of that myself too, but I don't know how we pick those people. You know, if you got 2 people out of the 3 or out of the 4 that are in favor of it, you know, then the other 2 don't get any input at all, that feel there needs to be further restrictions or answers to the questions. And so, you know, I just have to emphasize again, I don't think I've ever seen anything in my history of being on a city council of a carte blanche like this without knowing the details down the road. We have a responsibility here, and I just think it's important that we don't just give a carte blanche without having further answers. And 2 weeks to me is not an exorbitant period of time. I know they have, you know, but still got the feeling with the bands, people in the booths, there's not as many of those events that they go to. They will be ecstatic to be invited to Dexter to come here to participate, because they're not going to be able to go to a lot of other places as well. So I just think that 2 weeks gives us a little time, them some time for more clarification. We can certainly send our questions if we have more to where some were pointed out tonight, some of the inconsistencies here. Send it to them and say, you know, answers here. I can write a couple questions down that I have questions about. Fireworks is one of them. I mean, I've been there. I know it's shoulder to shoulder, face to face, you know, turning around, and a lot of people there, real close. So I just don't think that it's responsible to approve it in any fashion without some answers.
Okay, Michelle?
So Michelle submitted a comment that the on-street parking spaces on Main Street that weren't temporarily used for expanded outdoor service areas were limited to 15-minute carry-out service. Council has not yet determined if this will continue this year. The other thing that we don't know is if City Council is looking to approve the text amendment tonight, and that will allow on-street parking to be used, and will businesses that didn't take advantage of it last year decide to take advantage of it this year.
Thanks, Justin. Jamie Griffin?
Yep, thanks. Again, I feel like, I don't know, I'm struggling a bit with process. And what is the best way to help them move forward? I mean,
Jamie, they need to have a clear application. I mean, that the process, the way that they make a request, and it has to be clear. And I'm trying to give a lot of latitude. I mean, normally applicants wouldn't be talking at this part of the meeting. Okay, I'm trying to give them an opportunity to answer questions, to clarify what they're requesting. But to me, and I think at least a couple others, it's not really clear. Okay, it's clear what Zach's motion is, or was, which is the minimal plan, but the applicant told us that's not the one they want. Okay, now they also said that they'll take anything thinking that they can come back to us. So if there's, you know, if there's any small approval, I was just trying to make sure I understood what that minimal plan entailed and how it could be improved, you know, with the drawing and a few additional details. That's the process. It ought to be clear to us in the packet. Now, I respect very much the timing difficulty. And I think what Paul is suggesting is maybe if they just put a little bit more into this, in 2 weeks, it'll be clear enough that we can take that first step. But at least we'll have a basis for what we're making our motion and request on or approval on.
Does it, I mean, I have no idea what their timing is, et cetera. I mean, can we all envision that 10 booths would fit in Monument Park, for example? I mean, if we're going to be approving the number of booths, are we all only okay approving booths that are 6 feet apart? Or would we only approve a number of booths that's 12 feet apart? I mean, is there something, like, I can envision that it seems to me 10 booths should fit into Monument Park. Does it help the applicant if we tonight approve, you know, something that says we are permitting you to use Monument Park for 10 booths? Does that help them? I don't know. I don't know like how much lead time they need to start soliciting booths. But if doing something like that where it's, I don't know, you know, I don't know how the spacing would work, but it seems to me 10, 15 booths would fit in Monument Park somewhere at least 6 feet apart. I would be okay with that. Does that help them? I would be happy to approve something like that, something that would help them. I don't know if they need that and then they come back to us, you know, thinking about these other things. But if they're like, no, we need to start asking people right now, I want to do what it takes to help them. And if that's approving 10 booths in Monument Park, I would be happy to let them, you know, approve that, but maybe that wouldn't help them. I don't know.
Do we know how many booths are in Monument Park right now? I mean, in the past years?
Yeah, they had it in. Yeah, it was in the pack.
I can count 10 on one side of the sidewalk
5.
and at least 8 or so on the other, and then on the other side, similar way. So I think they could get 35 to 40 of them in there.
I think
Maybe I'm wrong, but
they've had up to 75. That's what
in Monument Park?
Well, no, it doesn't say where the booths are. That's just the number. They say 75 plus on their normal plan. But that's probably between Monument and Mill Creek North.
Yeah.
As well as in front of Three Bird and all through, you know, that's multiple areas.
Right. Including the clock tower and all, correct?
What's that, Paul?
Including the clock tower. I know there used to be some
yeah,
booths down there for the political parties.
It's not defined here how many would fit. That's why I'm just suggesting a map would be a useful tool. Wow, you've been waiting patiently?
Yeah, I also agree a map would be a useful tool. And you know, Jamie, to speak to your question about how much time is needed, I mean, again, in my experience, you want, as an event planner, you want as much time as you can get, right? Like that's been I've planned events and yeah, you do, but like, I feel like 2 weeks doesn't have to take the wind out of their sails. I think that there's nobody here saying we want to not have Dexter days. We just want a little more clarity. So I think that the fact that nobody's saying we don't want it at all should be, I don't think we're not being supportive, I guess is my point. We're just trying to figure this out the best we can in a challenging and changing environment.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna, Justin, can you unmute Tracy again? I'd like to bring her back to offer some comments, if you would, please, Tracy.
I'm here.
Do you think that you could provide just a little bit more clarity on some of the things that we've talked about?
I'm really biting my tongue because I'm frustrated. We gave you a packet to review, and I understand there's still lots of questions, and I can appreciate that. We're doing the best we can to determine what we can put in place that you guys as a whole are going to approve and feel comfortable with. I feel as if I want the ball to be in your court, and I expect you to say, listen, we've looked at these and we feel comfortable with yes for this, no for that, yes for this, no for that. We see what the minimum is to operate. We can agree, our group as a whole can agree to this. Knowing that, can you provide us with a solid application that supports what we can agree to, so that then we can dot all these I's and cross all these T's? I'm happy to do that. I'm not interested in going back and spinning my wheels on unknowns. If I'm going to say my minimum plan is 46 booths and 2 food booths, and you guys don't want that, even if I map it out, and you don't want that, then I'd like to know if my minimum, if you don't want the parade, then I'd like to know. If you don't want the car show, I'd like to know, so that we can build that final application and this final plan for you. That's how I feel.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
I know Julie wanted to mention something about booths too, because she's been on hold. She does a lot with that, her and Tracy. I don't know.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Okay, Justin, Julie Wilkinson, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. The original permit that was submitted, when we submitted it, we indicated that it was being submitted as a regular Dexter Days, with the understanding that we knew there would have to be modifications. Tracy worked her butt off to come up with these 3 different options, risk assessments, which is basically all they are. They're just saying, if we do this, here's where we think the risk is going to be, how high the risk is going to be. I'm of the mind that we are still just trying to get approval that yes, you will let us have some kind of event. We don't know, think about it this way. If you guys say, we'll approve Dexter Days, you can only have 46 booths and you have to spread them out between the 2 parks. What happens in 4 months if every restriction has been lifted? Then we're stuck at 46 booths. We don't have enough to pay for any of the stuff that we have to have. So my thinking is approve our request to have an event, and then in 3 months let us come back to you and say, okay, here's what here's what's going on now. Do we need to cancel the event? Can we have this many people? Can we have that many people? In the meantime, we can do our planning. And one other comment I just want to say, Paul has commented a couple of times on the fact that there's questions and you guys have questions. At the last meeting, you guys had questions and we asked you to give us your questions and we would answer them. I got a hold of Justin the day after the meeting and I said, hey, don't forget to send us the questions. He didn't get any questions from you guys. All he did was he sent us things that were taken from his notes. So if the questions aren't answered, that's because we didn't know to answer them. We were not given any other questions other than what Justin had in his notes. And there were a lot. There was a lot, but there might have been more. And apparently there was more. Because you guys are asking. You guys are bringing up all this stuff. We're not asking you to approve something right now saying it has to be this way. We don't know what things are going to be like in 5 months. I wish you would just say, yep, we're going to approve. You can have some kind of a Dexter days. Come back in 3 months and let's make the final plans. But at least that way we can move forward. And I think Tracy Hillebuck is waiting to talk, that she can answer some of your questions about the booths. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, so we have a motion on the table by Paul, second by Wah. I'm going to ask Ms. Jones to call that vote.
Okay. Griffin,
How long do I get?
this is the move to postpone it for until 2 weeks.
Right. I'm gonna vote no.
Okay. Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
No,
Michelle,
No.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Okay, so that motion fails 3-3. So the original motion
No,
that's still on,
I got four. I've got four. We have four on the yeses.
Who are they?
who did I miscount?
Cousins, Michelle, Hubbard, and yourself. I just have two on the nose, Jamie.
I'm sorry, I
and
wrote it
Julie.
down. Okay, all right, so we're postponing 2 weeks. So can I get a volunteer from the Griffin Night camp and a volunteer from the other four that we could have work with, one from each side, work a little bit with Julie and Tracy on, general stuff, maps, and, if you need to reach out to other council members to get questions answered, we can work together so that when we come back with this thing, we have something that is one, defined, and two, represents as many of the comments and questions that have been made over the past two meetings. And we certainly put a lot of time and energy out there. Everybody, I think, wants to find a way. It's just got to be better defined. Jamie or Julie?
sit with them.
I'm happy too.
Both of us could do it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we only need one. Who's the Dexter Days rep? Is that you, Julie?
Julie, yes,
All right, then Julie, I'm going to have you do that if you would, please.
I'd be happy to. Yes, I've worked with these before. I think they do a great job. As long as there's some clarification, if they need to know what we're actually looking for. And I think that's a lot of where the confusion is.
Okay, well, the council members will have to give you input as we go here. Is there a volunteer from Cousins, Wah, Michelle's, or I guess it could be me if the other three don't want to do it?
Well, Sean, I would love to do it, but under my conditions here with my wife, there's no way that it can happen, and I apologize for that, but it is what it is.
That's okay. I'm happy to do it if Wah and Zach are okay. But Wah, if you want to do it, or Zach, you want to do it, I'm happy to have you represent as well.
I feel like I might have some useful insight, and I'm just not really sure. I don't know if I have time at this point, but I would be happy to be a resource as somebody who's also planned events downtown, but because I want to see it succeed, but I just don't think I can do that right now.
Would you be able to review something that was put together before it came to council?
Yeah.
Like if you didn't put it together, could you look at it and say, oh, but what about X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, yep.
Maybe that would be helpful. I don't know.
Well, I think my vision of this is that two people would work and get information back out, as it's folding up, get feedback, because the goal is to come back with something that, most of us can support, as opposed to a deadlock or whatever. So
Well,
All
then
right, so
Sean, I
so we're
mean,
gonna,
Sean,
we'll have it be Juan and Julie then that are gonna work a little bit with Tracy and the committee and the firefighter association. I
Yeah.
thank you for volunteering on that, please.
yeah, that's fine.
Sean, real quick, can Zach clarify his vote on the motion?
Yeah, I thought he voted no.
I thought I voted no too.
Excuse me, I thought I heard a yes.
Yikes.
Okay, I heard
So
him
3-3, the
vote
motion
no.
fails if that's true.
Yeah, I heard him vote no. That's why I was surprised when Carol
Okay.
said it was.
Okay.
All right, so the motion to postpone fails. So all my effort to put together the committee still, maybe, well, we'll see what the next one, we'll see how the next one goes, because the motion on the table is by Zach to approve the minimal plan. Second by Jamie, I think it was, or
Julie, I think.
Julie, actually, Julie. Let me clarify my writing. Okay, is there any further discussion on that motion? Because if this one ends up 3-3 again, we're gonna be back to my committee. Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Wait, I have a question.
Yep.
Sorry. So I'm sorry, just procedurally here, because I don't want, so what happens if this motion gets voted down?
Well, why so there's a motion by Zach to approve the minimal plan that's in the packet, which is on page 83 and 84, as best we understand that. Okay, so if it's split the same way, then it fails, and we can put the committee together and work with the applicant to come back in 2 weeks with something else.
Okay, but just to clarify, if it fails, that doesn't mean we're declining to do Dexter Days at all.
No, because they can bring back a different motion. They can bring back a different proposal. I mean, it temporarily does, but it would mean that they're coming back.
Because I guess I'm conflicted about this motion just because I'm gonna go back to what Julie Wilkinson was saying. Like, what she was saying is a more stripped down version of this motion, which is that we want to have some version of Dexter Days. We don't know what that is. We want to check in 3 months and use what regulations are currently in place from other government entities that I feel need to be adhering to, and reevaluate from there. I have concerns with voting yes on something that has all of these like actual things tied to it. When 10 seconds ago or 2 minutes ago, we were discussing, what we were discussing. So I guess I'm having a hard time with this. And I don't know if there is some sort of like amendment we can make to this motion. I don't know that Zach even wants to talk about it. I'm not sure where he went, but I'm not trying to not have Dexter Days. I'm just trying to feel good about, I'm trying to do the best I can here. And I don't know how to do that, I guess.
I think that this could be improved if we have a couple council members working with them that are getting input into answering their question. It can be much more clearly presented. That's my opinion. And I guess I'll apologize if we didn't get enough questions to Justin between the last meeting and now. So we
For me,
weren't
it's
trying to
not
waste
about
time.
questions. It's about, and this is not a criticism. It's just, I had a hard time finding the clarity, like between all of the information that was put together. And I think that created more questions for me than what we had before. And I don't mean to belabor this point, so I'm just gonna stop talking and vote.
Okay, so the motion on the table is by Michelle's, second by Julie, to support the minimal plan. Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Yes. Hubbard,
No.
Michelle,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
No.
Griffin,
Yes.
Kehoe.
No. Okay, so motion fails 3-3. So can we get the volunteers to work with the committee to bring back something in 2 weeks, please?
Yeah, I will do that. And I want to make it clear that I hope that because, I mean, I just voted no. But as I've said many times in this meeting, it doesn't mean that I don't want to have Dexter Days and support it. So I will volunteer. And I really hope that there's no animosity toward me for that, because I really am trying to work with you guys here and I really want to help.
I think that we all want to find that. So, wow, well said. Okay, let's move on to old business item K2, which is consideration of the Watermoo Park Use Road closure permit request.
I'll make that motion that we approve it.
Okay, moved by Cousins,
Second, Michelle's.
second by Zach. Thank you both. Okay, discussion or questions? Justin, anything you want to add?
Not other than what was in the memo, but if you do have any questions, the applicant is here.
Does the applicant want to introduce themselves since I gave the other folks a chance to say hello? I'm not sure who that is on the, let me see here.
It's Nicholas Stanko.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Hi, Nicholas.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Thanks for joining and waiting.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I think I worked with Courtney last year. I didn't attend any meetings, but it was a pretty small event last year, and just hoping to grow it. And we work with Jolly Pumpkin on that, and hoping to bring people to the community, and the whole community can event or benefit in the years to come as it grows. But pretty small this year, probably with COVID restrictions.
How many did you have last year, Nicholas?
Because we work with the DNR had a cap of 100 people, including volunteers. So we capped it at 88 riders and had 12 volunteers.
Okay. Thank you. And hoping to have double that or thereabouts.
Yeah, if we get 100, 200 people, depending on DNR's restrictions, that'd be a win for us.
And I saw you had in the packet, you had backup parking. You've talked to the schools about the backup parking use?
Yes, we have been approved to use their parking lot, and that's contingent that we have them on the insurance, which shouldn't be an issue.
Yep. Okay. Just wanted to confirm what I was understanding. Great. Thank you. Sorry, Justin. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to confirm with Nicholas, rolling starts for the riders.
Yes. So, I mean, if the race was today, depending on the health guidelines, whatever the groups are. So if groups of 100 people can gather in August, then we hope to have, a wave of 100 people socially distanced. But whatever the guidelines are, we can adjust up to a couple days before the event. And I'm sure riders will be 100% fine with that.
Okay, and this is the same weekend as Dexter Days, right?
Justin,
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, the Saturday of, the morning of.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, just making sure I read everything right. Julie, you have your hand up. Thanks for waiting.
Is there an official application in the packet? I'm not finding it.
I think the Dexter Days social tent got put in there twice.
Oh, that's my fault. There was an application in the last packet.
Last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I have to comment and say I have difficulty approving one activity like this, but not approving others. So I don't think we should be selective in what we approve.
Well, and you use the Jolly Pumpkin as a starting and stopping place, right?
Correct. Yep. There's no city parks. There's just a soft closure of the east side of that loop in the industrial park. Riders are required to follow the rules of the road. And within a few miles, things get spaced out, being that long of a race. But we are flexible, and I understand if we have to come back and improve this at a later date, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Paul here.
Go ahead, Paul. And then we'll go to Julie and Jamie.
I think that there's, apples and oranges difference here between the two events. One is basically up in the industrial park and involves very little activity. The other one is, with a lot of moving pieces, and includes the downtown with and a 2-day event as opposed to one that just starts and ends at a spot. So I think there's a lot of difference between the two. I understand Julie's comment, but I think there's a big difference between the two of them. Gigantic difference.
Jamie?
I think Wa had her hand up first.
Oh, I don't see Wa's hand. Sorry. Go ahead, Wa, then.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate Julie's point. It doesn't compel me to want to not approve this tonight, though. I just pulled up the MDHHS. I don't think it's an executive order or whatever, and it's saying right now for recreational facilities. I don't know if this is outside, but it's saying 300 persons outdoors, and then sometime later, somewhere else later, it says for outdoor entertainment and recreation facilities, no more than 1,000 patrons may be gathered. So, I mean, at least what happened recently, it would allow for more even than what you've indicated here, and I would be, I'd be comfortable with that, given that you're going to be following the DNR. So, just wanted to alert other people on this call that those numbers are higher than what's been indicated here.
Correct. That's what I saw too, as the recent update. 1,000 people outside can gather, and I definitely don't want that many people. So even non-COVID, I'm not willing to have that big of an event yet. So
thanks.
Okay. Any other council comments on this one? Wa?
I'd like to say quickly that I agree these are two different types of events. So I think that there is a difference in decision making there. I just want to state that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we have a motion by Cousins, second by Michelle's. Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Yes. Knight?
No.
Griffin?
Yes.
Cousins?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Michelle's?
Yes.
Keo?
Yes. Motion carries. 5-1. Thank you for your effort. Good luck with your event, and appreciate you coming on tonight.
great. Thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you,
I think,
Nicholas.
Don, I think it was a 4-2. Is that right, Carol?
5-1.
I have 5-1.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't hear it.
It's okay. Okay, new business item L1 is consideration of the garden club plant sale park use road closure permit request.
I'll make that motion as well.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Paul for L1, motion to approve, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by, wow, was it?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Justin, is there anyone present here on the call that would like to speak, do you know, on behalf of the garden club?
Yes, I believe Deb Fredericks.
Okay, if you could unmute Ms. Fredericks, please, and we invite her to speak.
I have asked her to unmute.
Yes. Hi there, everyone. Thanks so much for considering our permit, and certainly see that your hearts are in all of it. I'm Deborah Fredericks, the president of the Garden Club this year. And as the other groups have said, we are certainly willing to work with everyone, and we know that you do have a blueprint there. And anything else? Do you have any other questions?
So thank you for joining tonight. So just to kind of talk through this, you've got a one-way flow plan.
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at the map that's on, what page is that? 106, I think, of the packet?
It looks like
106, correct.
Yep, 106.
Okay, and so what is there like, is it snow fencing or something that's going up around the outside, or how do we keep people from only entering in one spot?
we did have snow fencing in areas prior. We
Yep.
can do snow fencing, or if you would prefer something else, we can do that. If you needed higher, whatever, better visibility, we even have critter fence that could be used. Of course, we're the garden club. We have critter fence. So
Yeah, I'm as long as it's obvious how the flow should go. That was my concern.
yes, that was a big deal for everyone in the club themselves. As you know, we have a number of older members who are, concerned about their health still. And so we were very motivated to try and keep this as safe as possible. And yeah, there, as everyone has seen, you can have free-for-alls before you know it. And so we wanted to try and prevent that right from the get-go.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I thought that's what I sort of understood from reading through this, but I wanted to make sure that was your intent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ms. Griffin.
Thanks. Hi, thanks for putting this together. The visual is definitely helpful. I don't know if I saw it in here and maybe I missed it. Is there an estimate of what the spacing is between the booths or the rectangles?
I think we're going to have it pretty far apart because it's, we decided that for this year, we normally have other vendors. As far as we know right now, Fent Brick is going to be the only outside vendor. And we wanted to really wait and see, from your opinion of what things were. And it was really instructive to hear the Dexter Days concerns. And luckily ours is much simpler. The spacing is merely the spacing arbitrarily that we choose just to have the plant tables. So, and then Fent right now is the only other group that would be in, and they would be quite a ways away. They wanted to have a brick display. So what we wanted was just to have them spaced enough that we could have people choose their plants and do that safely, go around and get their plants. But we also want to keep people moving. That's why we chose the one-way traffic pattern, was so that we could you know, a lot of people like to stop and talk. We're going to encourage them to choose their plants and then move on and go outside to talk.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I missed it. It does, I'm looking right at the blueprint. It does say right there, the tables are approximately 3 feet by 8 foot spaced 12 foot apart on average. So that's helpful. So, I mean, not to, just for anybody else who's on this call.
That's fine, because I didn't get to look at everything either. And also a really nice feature is that most people are carrying wagons or wheelbarrows. So that's really handy for spacing in a way that you wouldn't have seen at the ice festival, you know, which everyone adored. So it's really wonderful that, you know, we have any chance to do this at all for any groups.
Yeah. I knew somebody who had gone to a greenhouse, I don't know, somewhere east of here, maybe last May. So I don't know, peak time, you know, sort of peak COVID times. And
Yeah.
they had a successful one-way walking through a greenhouse type.
Yes.
So it seems to me this is something that's been done.
Yes, we were obviously, many people went to the greenhouses and were comparing notes on who was successful and who wasn't, and who we wouldn't go back to again, because it was such an issue of the safety and perceived safety. That's really important.
Thank you.
Wah, thanks for waiting.
Thanks. I guess I was going to say in response to Jamie's question on something on page 102, but now that we've looked on 106, I guess I have a question, which is on the diagram, it says, just for sake of clarity here, tables are 3 by 8, as Jamie just said, spaced 12 feet apart on average. But on page 102, it says under number 6, social distancing will be encouraged by placing the tables with merchandise a minimum of 15 feet apart. And I just think, you know, if we're gonna be asking questions of one group, we got to ask the same sort of questions.
That's fine. Yeah, if there's a conflict from that, I think that the park being as large as it is, will take the larger spacing.
Thank you.
All set, Wah? Okay, yep, hand went down. Julie, Knight?
Yes, thank you. I'm sad to say I'm going to have to vote against this as well for the same reason I voted against the bike race. I don't see how we can approve some activities and functions, but not others. And I understand that some people think they need a little more support as far as more documentation, but yeah, I will definitely. And I'm sad to say it because I am a member of the garden club and I do support the garden club. So, but I will vote against this. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Any other council member comments? Back to Jamie, looks like your hand's back up.
Yeah, I mean, along the same vein, like questions we've asked of Dexter days. I mean, were we worried about, if we're worried about mask enforcement? Are we worried about mask enforcement here? I mean, I personally don't have a problem with this plan, and I obviously didn't have a problem with Dexter days proposed. So I'm not looking to like penalize one group because things didn't go well for the other group. But I just want to remind people that maybe was a concern. Are they concerned about who's enforcing masks at this event or not? I personally am not. Putting it out there.
More?
Deb, is it safe to say if you see too many people getting together that the garden club members are going to speak up, or what's your plan for that?
Does anybody know Alan Gorgas?
Yes.
You better believe that Alan Gorgas would come down like an avenging angel. And I think pretty much everybody feels very strongly about having these things in place and getting them right then and there. If there's an issue, you know, it's certainly very easy to stop and say, look, you can't come in unless you have your mask. Thank you so much. Or ladies, you know, please take this conversation outside. You know, we're getting a clog up here, or whatever situation might come up. We have many volunteers at our show. I'm sure, as Julie and many other people who have been know, there's at least 2 people per table for volunteers. So that there's going to be a number of people that will be helpful And if that helpful involves asking people to do what needs to be done for safety, so be it.
Very good. Ms. Knight?
Yes, I just have a question. On page 101 of 120, action requested. The city council is asked to consider the approval of the park use road closure permit for the Dexter Garden Club to hold the annual garden plant sale on August 14th, 2021.
August? No, May.
It says August.
Yeah, Julie, that was a copy paste error. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it normally was in May, so.
Yeah, that will be May 15th. Yeah.
May 15th.
Yes. So, right, and so whatever things are in place right now are probably going to be pertinent for us then.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, your letter and your application both have the 15th of May.
Great, thank you.
I appreciate the thought and detail that went into this.
Yeah, they did a great job. It was not mine. I'm just here, catching
well,
a good raise.
It's a good plan. I appreciate it. Julie, your hand's still up. Are you all set?
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Just making sure you're covered. I just want to make sure everybody asks the questions they get to ask.
I'm good.
Okay, Ms. Jones, we've got a motion by Cousins and a second by Wah. Or no, wait a minute. Yes, motion by Cousins, second by Wah to approve the garden club plant sale park use permit. Can you please call the vote?
Yes, I will. Cousins.
Yes.
Knight.
No.
Hubbard.
Yes, did you not hear me?
Okay, well, I just voted yes.
Now I did.
Okay.
I got it now. Michelle.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Deb, thanks for joining the meeting.
Thank you so much, because it really makes a difference, because we've got a tighter turnaround time here and we are very grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're getting there. Thank you.
All right.
New business item L2 is a consideration from the Planning Commission. We're at the top of page 4 of the agenda. Consideration recommendation from the Planning Commission regarding outdoor service area text amendments to the zoning ordinance.
I'll move that as noted in suggested motion 1 on page 109.
Okay, 109. Thanks, Zach. Motion by Michelle's.
I'll second.
Second by Jamie, was it?
Yep.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, are we turning this over to Mike, I'm guessing?
Yes, thank you. So these amendments are a revised version of text amendments that council reviewed in December of last year. Council's feedback at the time was asking staff to update the amendments to provide a clearer distinction between the different accessory, commercial, and retail activities that they're proposing. So these text amendments would remove outdoor seating areas for restaurants, which are currently a special use in the zoning ordinance, and then would establish 3 new categories of accessory uses, those being outdoor service areas, which would take the place of the restaurant seating, temporary outdoor display areas, and outdoor display areas. The amendments also involve some minor revisions to open air businesses and automobile and vehicle dealerships to reconcile those uses with the new outdoor use categories. So the Planning Commission reviewed this draft and held a public hearing on March 1st and voted to recommend approval with some minor revisions. No public comments were made at the hearing. Section 2306 of the zoning ordinance establishes the criteria that needs to be considered for text amendments. The need for these amendments have been discussed for some time in the last few, or at least in the last few years. In 2017, both Aubrey's and the Dexter Pub, for different reasons, needed amendments to their approved outdoor seating areas which staff couldn't do administratively because of that special land use classification. So after some discussion about that matter on the planning commission, staff consulted with the city attorney, who gave the opinion that the special land use process is a little more cumbersome and time consuming than is necessary for this sort of activity. So these amendments would allow the city to continue to accommodate sidewalk business and retail activity that's been an economic boost during the pandemic, and would also allow local businesses to continue enjoying the benefits of these sort of services after the pandemic. So in addition to the immediate need, they're also consistent with the long-term objectives of the master plan, which include promoting and coordinating activities aimed at improving the business climate in the city and to plan for and promote tourism in the city of Dexter. So Sean, I can give a quick overview of the difference between these uses if you like. They're also described in Michelle's memo.
Sure, keep going, Mike.
Okay, so the first category is our outdoor display areas, which would be permitted in both C1 and the VC district. Those would require special land use approval, and they're an accessory use that would require a minimum of 550 square feet in area. And however, with approval, the items displayed in that outdoor display area could be left out overnight. The temporary outdoor display area would be permitted as an accessory use by right that could be approved administratively in the C1, VC, and central business districts. Those would need to be in an area of less than 550 square feet, and those items will need to be stored each night. They could be also permitted on sidewalks in a public right of way or on private property. The category that replaces the outdoor seating areas are the outdoor service areas. Those will be permitted in C1, VC, CBD or the central business district, and the RD zoning district. Those would also be an accessory use that would be approved administratively. So for outdoor seating, outdoor service areas, approved areas could make use of parking spaces between May 1st and November 1st. However, that limit is in place primarily because of the need to clear snow. So outside of those months, parking spaces could not be used for that sort of activity. Sidewalks or outdoor service areas could be permitted on sidewalks. And in the months November 1st through April 30th, when parking space use is not permitted, structures that we've seen this winter, such as those the beer grotto uses, could be reviewed and approved. And then lastly, the amendments to the open air business and the automotive or car dealerships is not significantly different than what we approve now. The major intent of those amendments was to make sure we're using separate language for those uses and incorporating them as needed with the new accessory use categories. So does anyone have any questions on the amendments?
Go ahead, Jamie.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. That third bullet there about the on-street parking. So I think Michelle had confirmed that that's sort of what these parklets that kind of became a thing with COVID, I guess. And so I think my questions about that are, so this is sort of making a permanent change then, saying that these are, the use of public on-street parking would be allowed via administrative review, into the future indefinitely. I just want to confirm that. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I guess my questions around that are, can you confirm who's paid for the setup of the parklets in the past and who would in the future? And thinking, I don't know, longer term, I mean, is it possible that all the spaces on, like, say, Main Street, like that, the primary part of Main Street would be taken up if people want permits? Are we comfortable if it's, well, we'd only want so many places doing it, so not all the parking is taking up? And then how do you decide which places get it? I guess I'm just wondering about some functional details about implementation of that. If it's the case that, like, say every business on, right there on Main Street wants it, are we obligated to permit everyone? And if not, then how do you decide who to permit? And then also who's paying for those?
Okay. So the way that I believe these amendments were intended to work, the barriers would need to be provided privately by the applicant. I don't believe there's been any discussion about the city or the DDA providing those barriers. So my understanding is that the business would provide them. The way that the amendments don't include any limit on the number of spaces that could be used. So yes, that's a possibility. The way that the parking space use was administered in the past, I believe we had businesses sign an agreement if one business was proposing to occupy a space in front of another, and which is how we handle that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle's got her hand up, which means she's sending a chat somewhere. Not sure to whom.
Yeah, there is a message. I'm not sure how much of this you want me to read, Michelle. There's quite a bit here. But to the question about whether public parking spaces have always been allowed, Michelle indicated that it was triggered by COVID, but as a way to help, triggered by COVID as a way to help our businesses. Is the plan to continue the use of parking spaces beyond COVID? Michelle, yes, council recognized, as did Planning Commission and DDA, that allowing the temporary repurposing of on-street parking brought an unexpected but welcome benefit. It brought an added degree of vitality to the downtown without compromising health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Okay, thanks for reading that. So let me ask you just a couple of questions, Mike, category wise. So somebody like Bush's falls in which category? The greater than 550?
I guess it could depend on what they were proposing. If they had a space greater than 550 square feet and they wanted to apply for that special use, they could do that. Alternatively, if they just wanted, it would depend on what they were proposing.
Okay, so they could fall in either the first bullet or the second one.
Michelle's nodding her head no.
Okay, so somebody like Bush's already has been permitted through their through their site plan review. This ordinance goes forward. So if you had somebody new coming in, excuse me, and they wanted to do something similar to what Bush's is doing, they would have to do this. Excuse me. If that makes sense. Something like the gas station on Baker Road, they've always done an outdoor outdoor display. But that was never approved as part of a site plan. So technically they would need to come in under the one that Michael said. That would be, depending on their area, either less than 550 or more than 550.
Understood. Okay, so like Hackney
is the less than.
Would be the less than.
Yes.
Okay, how about somebody like the Dexter Mill? Do they have any
They're an existing legal nonconformity. They don't fall under this unless
so
they were
that's
to expand their
beyond.
current area.
Okay. Okay.
If Bush's wanted to use their parking lot, that would, depending on the size, trigger either an administrative addition or a special use addition. Does that make sense to you?
Yep. Yep. Again, I just had a couple of questions for clarity, so. Are there other council members with questions on this?
Exercise your arm.
What's that, Paul?
Nothing, I'm all set, thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just heard voice. Okay, so we have a motion by Michelle, second by Griffin. I believe the reference was to page 109. To approve. Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Okay, Knight,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes,
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. New business item L3 is discussion of the declaration of state of emergency process. I'll turn this over to Justin.
Sure. So council had talked about a potential desire to continue meeting virtually, along with allowing boards and committees to continue meeting virtually. Currently, the Open Meetings Act allows for no reason virtual meetings through March 31st. But it does allow for a process to continue meeting virtually through a declaration of a state of emergency through the end of the year. I had gotten in touch with City Attorney Scott Munzel, who I don't believe is on, but he put together the memo on page 112 through 114. And basically the summary is City Council does have the authority to declare a state of emergency, likely using the emergency ordinance power through the city charter. That's one way to go about it. Another is to essentially appoint a emergency management coordinator. That person would then declare a state of emergency, and then City Council would essentially reaffirm that state of emergency. So I really wanted to provide this for council's discussion and see if there was any direction that council was feeling. There is always also the possibility that the state will come back and provide an extension to no reason virtual meetings. There's also another possibility that the county could declare a state of emergency. And in either of those cases, we would be able to continue meeting virtually. But if those don't happen, then we would have to take some action.
Ms. Griffin, thank you for waiting.
Yep, thanks. Thanks, Justin. One thought that comes to mind, I mean, I think the original motivation was, oh, how is there some way that we can prolong virtual meetings, maybe because of, you know, the comfort of different members or greater public participation. I think there were some good reasons for contemplating that. I'm wondering about potential unintended consequences. I don't know what else might happen if, you know, it seems like declaring a state of emergency at various levels triggers other things like the release of funds or the, you know, permission of all these other things. So one thing that comes to my mind is, okay, we've just approved this plant sale to happen in May. So if we declare a state of emergency because we want to have virtual meetings, does it somehow create a problem for having approved an event during this 60-day period? Is, two questions, like, does it create an actual problem because it's written somewhere something else happens when there's a local state of emergency? Like, what else? Is there anything that automatically happens or that is additionally prohibited or required during that time? And two, is there sort of a strange perception? If not, is there like a perception issue if we've declared a state of emergency and we're approving event during that time, or other things? I guess those are two thoughts that come to my mind.
Jamie, I'm thinking it could be defined when it's declared, I guess, but that's just my initial thought. I suppose if it was severe enough that you were trying to use it to cancel certain things, I suppose it could extend to that level. But I would think it would have to be defined that way, and then, like in the case of option 2, supported.
So in
either option, really supported.
So I have seen at least one other resolution from a community who is either has or is declaring a local state of emergency, and in their resolution they specifically stated that it is for the purposes of being able to continue virtual meetings.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Another thing to note, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but I was notified over the weekend that one of our board or commission members did test positive for COVID.
Your board of what?
Well, one of our board and commission members tested positive for COVID.
So it's still real. Thanks for waiting.
Oh yeah, thanks. I'm in reading the guidelines, current guidelines. Indoor non-residential gatherings where people interact across households are permitted up to 25 people, allowing for public meetings and other small indoor gatherings to resume. So here's my question. Because we don't have a large meeting space, I mean, up to 25 people, then it becomes, without having this online access, are we restricting the ability of our residents to participate in these meetings if we don't have the space or the capacity to go beyond 25 people? I'm not saying, we regularly have 25 people show up for meetings, but sometimes we have a good number on these calls, and I'm just thinking about this theoretically. I don't really have, I just wanted to bring that up.
It does seem like council has been supportive of potentially continuing the use of Zoom and these meetings for public access even after we do go back to in-person.
Yeah, and I think I've been, yeah, definitely. But I just, we have to keep that in mind, that if we don't do something like this and we do have to go back to in-person meetings, unless something changes, we can only have 25 people, including ourselves and staff. So that's a lot of people already.
Yep. And I think that's probably why at the next meeting, we need to have a draft resolution to continue doing that, to continue the use of open meetings through one of these two methods. Justin, is that what you're thinking?
If council's interested, I can bring back a draft resolution or ordinance for the next meeting.
I mean, the other option, becomes in April that we have the space at St. Andrew's Church. But again, we're going to be limited to the rules as well, as you said. I think it's in our best interest probably to continue these if we can for some time. Jamie?
Thanks. Yeah, I think I'm generally fine with that. I was just trying to make sure that there wasn't weren't some other automatic things that happen by triggering a local state of emergency. And that's something I can do a little bit more research on to myself. But if we just have confidence that, nope, the state of emergency just means like we can decide we're doing virtual meetings and it doesn't mean anything else the city is obligated to do or not obligated to do, that's something I would be fine with.
And I can double check with the city attorney on that as well, just to be doubly sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, when we passed the emergency ordinance, before we defined it to the outdoor seating, right? So I mean, we've done that before under a defined thing, I think, but yeah, I think it's good to check.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like the phrase state of emergency, is that like, is there some more specific definition to that carries additional, we will find out.
Well, once it hits the paper, we'll find out.
Good one.
Okay, any further comment needed? Justin, thanks for your research. Thanks, Scott, for his help in that. I think we'll probably come back with the draft at the next meeting, so we can have this ability to do them. I think continue. I'm assuming everybody wants to keep going that way. New business item L4.
Can I go back?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Go ahead, Jamie, and then Paul, or Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I'm just going to say that I've asked for a point of personal privilege. I have to leave. I'm in a hospital with Pat, and I'm leaving now, and I'm not going to be driving and looking at my pack. Okay, I just want to let you know that. Okay.
Okay.
And so, but I would let you know that Pat also, when they passed the garden club, because she's in the garden club, I whispered her to it that they were talking about the garden club garden sale and that they passed it. She gave me a thumbs up. Okay. So I just want to let you know that's a big improvement, to be quite honest, what it was just a few days ago.
Great news, Paul. Great news. Okay,
So
drive safely.
Back in Dexter. Wow.
Okay, Jamie?
Yep. Sorry, I had a note back to the earlier thing we were just talking about. The last line, it could be an issue for some members of public bodies that do not reside within the Dexter city limits. So to the extent that we have board or commission members who do not reside within the city of Dexter, they would not then be permitted to participate virtually, or they would have to physically be here to participate virtually.
That was an item that Scott brought up. And right now, the committees that would impact are Parks and Recreation, Arts, Culture and Heritage, and DDA, I believe. And the majority of all of those boards are city residents. And so really what we would need is, number one, quorum of city residents from each of those boards, and votes where a non-resident would impact or would swing the vote one way or the other. But there could also be some debate over what constitutes the affected area.
Right. Yeah. I just don't know for like what period of time we'd be doing this, and for those people on boards and commissions, if how that will affect them, or how that could potentially affect decisions being made, or I don't know, just a sticky point, I think.
But that's if we go option 2, right? I mean, if we do option 1, that doesn't play, right?
So in either instance, that language is out of the Open Meetings Act, and in either case, whichever way you declare a state of emergency, that would flow into the Open Meetings Act to allow you to hold virtual meetings. Whether or not that would cause real challenges, I'm not sure.
Is it possible?
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, so like I just don't want like those members to become disenfranchised or something because they're not maybe a voting member, but I guess maybe a workaround, not necessarily a workaround, but like they would still be able to participate on the meeting. They just wouldn't be a person voting towards decisions. So they would still be able to participate and say, I'm calling it or whatever, like as just a person participating, and then so that their opinions could at least be heard.
I'm sure that's still allowed.
Right. Okay.
We'll have to find out more. I agree with what you're asking, Jamie.
Yeah, the challenge is that because this is new legislation, none of it's been fleshed out in the courts. None of it's been clarified yet. There really hasn't been any clarifying legislation or clarifying court cases. So we're really on kind of the cutting edge of the stuff.
Thanks.
Well, maybe the follow-up question, Justin, is what if the people that were outside the area came into the area and there was a virtual meeting where they were together at St. Andrews, but instead of worrying about having 25 people in a room, there might only be 3. I don't know if that's a workaround or not, but I'm just thinking out loud.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess just kind of reading this, for what's on the page, if they were to be in the affected area, assuming that the affected area was limited to the city boundaries, and they physically located themselves within the city boundaries during their meeting, there's potential there.
I don't know. It's not completely clear to me, so I don't know, just asking.
Sure.
All right, well, I'm taking away from this conversation that there's sentiment to at least try to consider something. So we'll have a draft resolution that can be studied and thought more about it the next time. Okay, to move on to L4 now.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, yep, no, you're welcome. You're welcome. New business item L4 is consideration of paper of record. Starts in the packet on page 115.
Move to designate the Sun Times News as the City of Dexter's paper of record.
Moved by Michelle's.
I'll second.
Jamie, your hand's up.
Yep, I'll second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? Justin, anything you want to point out?
Nothing that isn't in the memo. We did ask Scott to clarify some of the questions from the last meeting, and he felt comfortable that the Sun Times would meet all of the requirements to be considered a newspaper and paper of record. So now that the Sun Times is back to distributing door to door within the city, it does seem appropriate that we would go back to using them.
Okay. Council questions? Not seeing any. So Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve
Okay.
the Sun Times as our paper of record.
Yes. Griffin,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Fisher. Oh, excuse me. I'm trying to add Donna in all the time. Hubbard,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins is absent now. Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Council comments this evening, starting with our 2 student members, if they're still on. I'll go with Alex first tonight.
Okay, I have no comments. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for attending, sir. Bella?
I also don't have any comments.
Okay, glad you made it back safely. Mr. Michelle's.
All right, I just wanted to remind everyone I abstained on the consent agenda because part of it was paying bills to my employer. It seems a pretty clear conflict of interest. I have heard from folks who were familiar with the MedHub building way back in the day that we ought to really kick the foundation a little bit. I'm pretty sure it has been improved with MedHub and other folks, but he cautioned me on that. So whoever's in charge of connecting with the building inspection, make sure that that gets kicked a bit there. And for staff, a question I'm going to ask when the IFT comes back for UIS folks is they said in their building permit it was only $1.5 million for the building. In their application with us, it says it's 2.9 million. So I'm going to want to know how the building doubled its cost between building permit and our door there. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Ms. Knight.
Yes, thank you. As some of you know, I am planning on stepping away from my city council seat as of the end of March. I have the second home up on Lake Huron, and I want to spend my summers up there, and I'd have to make trips back to Dexter for council meetings. Plus, I don't think it's fair to our residents that I be living in one spot and governing in another. So I will submit a letter of resignation before the end of March, but I am planning on stepping away as of March 31st. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Ms. Griffin.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to attending the conflict of interest training on Wednesday. One thing, we talked about this a couple times at meetings, getting our previously recorded meetings that are currently on Zoom up on our website. I don't know what needs to happen to advance that, but it would be great to see that on an agenda coming up, however that would need to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. What?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Okay, I just want to just say thanks to everybody for their patience over tonight's meeting and others. It's very difficult when people are calling in or, you know, not able to use the hand feature and stuff. So I think we did pretty well, but appreciate your patience letting others go ahead of you if you had your hand up or something like that. So we're getting through it. We're back around to non-arranged participation.
Sean, can I say something quickly?
Sure, Carol.
It's Carol. I want to put it in the record. I want everybody to think of my dad tomorrow as he turns 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Doug did a wonderful piece for the Sun Times. His name's Robert Mast, out there on Mast Road.
Thanks, Carol. Wish him happy birthday from all of us.
Well, I will.
Okay, we're under non-arranged participation. Is there anyone on the meeting that would like to speak tonight? Again, for those who may have joined us, *9 on your cell phone or the raise hand feature will let us know you would like to speak. Justin, I'm not seeing anyone. Do you?
I do not.
Okay. Then we have a closed session as the last item before adjournment. So if I could get a motion from somebody to go into closed session and then a second. And then once we vote, we'll ask Justin to put everybody who's not invited into the closed session into the waiting room. Justin, who do you want in the closed session on staff side?
So there's a list under the suggested motion, which
Okay,
actually should
there we
be
go. Okay, yep.
In accordance for pending litigation, not purchase of property, but all of our normal staff plus Kyle from Varnum, Kyle Konwinski, and then staff from F&V.
Okay. So Ms. Knight?
Yes, I'll move that we go into closed session at 8:58. Is that what time it is?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Motion to go in by Ms. Knight. Second by Wah.
Yep, I'll second.
Thanks for putting your hand up. Great. Okay, Ms. Jones, if you please call the vote to go in.
Yes. Michelle?
Yes.
Knight?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Keo?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Justin, if you could take care of the procedural part of this, putting the public into another room there.
Sure.